YouTube. Today we're going to replace these poorly operating additional high beam lights with these. Now, if you don't know how to remove this grill, I'll put a link up to the video how to do that, and I'll also put a link up on the review of these lights. I've got several different LED lights that we've tested out. This is a 4-pack. Since it's a 4-pack, my plan is to have 2 up here that come on when the high beams come on, and then I'm going to have 2 down in the lower bumper area that will function as fog lights or driving lights. And my plan is to wire them such that these come on when you turn on the high beams, and the ones that are fog or driving lights will turn off when you turn on the high beams. I'll accomplish that by using a relay, possibly 2. I haven't totally decided yet whether I want to have these basically come on independently or come on automatically when the headlights are turned on yet. So once I decide that, I'll know if I need more than 1 relay. The first part's just going to be removing these. You see, I just wired them so that they came on when the high beams came on, so I'll be able to cut this wire here, unbolt these. You also notice they left the siren or speaker or some police equipment in here, and to make these new lights fit, I'm probably going to have to remove it, which is no biggie because it's not hooked up to anything, and I really don't need the temptation of having a siren hooked up anyway. This is how I decided to wire it. So I have the existing wire that I had hooked up to my fog light switch before, so it's got accessory power, so when the key is on and then you flip the switch, you'll get power here. I typically run stuff with accessory power, not battery power. Just my personal preference. So if you flip the switch on, it'll send power down here, but I'm going to run it through a relay, and I don't like the particular color scheme they used on this attachment here. Relays work, they're off when one of these 2 side wires or both are not hooked up. When they're off, these 2 wires are connected. When you switch it on, it's going to connect these 2 wires. So what we're going to do, I'm going to run one of these to ground full time, this one to the high beam wire that's hot when the high beams are on. Then I'm going to run the power, the accessory power here, and then hook this up to the fog light side and this up to the high beam side. And when I say hook up, this will be the hot wires, so the ground will just be grounded all the time. So what will happen when you flip on the switch for fog lights, power will come down this black wire and it will go out to the fog lights. When you flip on the high beams and you still have that switch on, then power gets diverted to the red wire, which will be the high beam LED lights. If you flip the fog light switch off, then power stops coming down here, in which case all the lights will be off. So it kind of gives me the best of both worlds situation. What it doesn't give me is the ability to have all 4 of them on at the same time, but racking my brain, I don't think there would be a time when I'd need all of that. In other words, I'm going to have 2 that are focused as high beams and 2 that are focused lower. And in normal driving situations, I can't imagine where you'd want the high and the low pointing. You know, it could be blinding to oncoming traffic or whatever. So that's how I'm going to wire it. You don't need to watch me solder all this. If you don't know how to solder, I've got videos where I solder stuff. I'm going to give a progress report here. So I've got the lights mounted up here, got the relay wired. You see the yellow is a ground. I've got a ground going over to a ground spot. The red is powering the high beam version, the blue is powering the fog lights. White is the trigger. When the high beams come on, it triggers the relay to switch the power to the red instead of the blue. And then the black wire is the power input. You see, I just put in a new 18 gauge wire. I had like a 20, I think, in there. I don't think that was going to be powerful enough. So, the project's taking me a little bit longer because I got in here and I took out a lot of the police stuff that they had left in. They had this left in the vehicle, all this extra wiring, and all it basically was doing was sending the headlight power to this box and back, and like this wire was just cut and left hanging there. So I took all of this out. While I have all this apart, I wanted to show you this black wire with a blue stripe. That is the courtesy lighting. That wire runs all throughout the car. So if you're wanting to add, like I've done, where I've got lights under the dash when you open the doors, lights in the floorboard in the back for the passengers, and other lights like that, just find that black wire with the blue stripe, and like I said, it runs all around the car. They've left the wires as if you had one of the higher trim models. Also back in here is this police wire right there. Now you see a lot of it's been cut and mangled over the years. Probably the upfitters did a lot. But these are the wires, if you've seen. In fact, let's go ahead and show you. That's those wires. So this project ended up a success. As you saw, everything's working now. But it wasn't without quite a few hiccups along the way. Like I said, when I started this project, I was really planning on just taking out the old lights, putting in the new ones, using the existing wiring and switches, just adding the relay to make it switch back and forth. As I got into it, as typically happens with these type of projects, found the police wiring stuff. Thought, let me take that out, clean this up a bit. Ended up soldering the wires for the high beams back to the way they're supposed to be, instead of having that loop out to the flasher unit. And then when I was hooking up the switch for the accessory power to turn these on, nothing was happening. And so got in there with my multimeter, checking different things, ended up running a whole new wire out here. Still wasn't fixing the problem. Turns out, if you use those little tap things, basically a plastic thing that clamps over a wire and you can add a wire to it, so you're tapping into there. That's how I had the power source for the accessory power, through one of those little tap things. Well, I guess those loosen up over time or whatever, because the connection there was bad, so I cleaned that up. But probably from here on out I'm going to do nothing but soldering. It works better. So anyway, I'm going to put this back together. Won't be able to know if these are aimed right until we drive, obviously.